Hello, good afternoon. My name is Rebecca or Becky Swanson, and I am Karen's sister-in-law. And we want to thank all of you for coming today and honoring Karen with your presence as we together celebrate her life. Before we begin the service, I'd like to recognize certain guests that we especially want to thank. I think sitting together as a group, we have those that we refer to as Karen's angels, those people who helped and assisted her through her most difficult times. And I'd like to introduce Brenda Strobin, if she would stand. Brenda. Jill Tobin in the back there. Brittany Tobin. And then missing today is Sandy Ellis. And Sandy is in Phoenix with her mother. And it was unavoidable for her to not be here. So thank you so much for coming, and thank you to all of the angels. We want to also say thanks for the musicians that are assisting today with the service. We appreciate so much your sharing your gifts, your talents with us today. And we especially want to thank Doug Matuska and Larry Bach for fetching these musicians for us and having them here today. We feel very honored. Thank you so much for sharing your gifts and talents with us. And then we want to say a special welcome to all of Karen's friends, relatives who are here today, who mean so much to all of us. So a special welcome to them. And then we want to also welcome any who have tuned into the broadcast of this. I think it's called, what is the term, live streaming? And we are just so happy that we have others who were not able to come due to illness or age or weather or being in a different place. So thanks to the beauty of technology and that great gift of advanced technology that allows us to do that today. So welcome to all. Thank you, Stephen, so much, and thank you for the keyboard accompaniment. Beautiful. through love to light. From light, O God, to thee, who art the love of love, the eternal light of light. And the scripture reading from Philippians 4:8. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. And then Galatians 5:22 through 23. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faith, gentleness, and self-control. Against such there is no law. A few minutes ago, I introduced myself as Karen's sister-in-law. I wish that we could take off the in-law part of that, because we're not actually sisters by definition, but perhaps more importantly, we were sisters of the heart. The impact we had on each other's lives touched every area in which one grows. I now know what it feels like to walk around with a broken heart. For to lose Karen from my world here is to lose my most cherished, beloved, and treasured best friend. She has enriched my life beyond measure in unexpected, life-affirming ways. As I think of her now, I think of her as her favorite scripture, and it's also mine, and it's 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Though I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, and have not love, I am only a resounding gong or a tinkling cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy and can understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have a faith that could move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned and have not love, it profiteth me nothing. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy. Love does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude nor self-seeking. It is not easily angered or provoked. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always endures. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they shall cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it shall pass away. For now we know in part, and we prophesy in part, but when that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall disappear. When I was a child, I spoke like a child, I thought like a child, I acted like a child, I reasoned like a child. But when I became a woman, I put away childish things. For now we see through only a reflection as in a mirror, but then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, but then I shall fully know, even as I am fully known. And now abide faith, hope, love. These three, but the greatest of these is love. Karen was filled with love and gave this gift to everyone in her life. In fact, to know Karen was to love Karen. She was a bright light, maybe the brightest light of all in our lives. Her essence is captured by something she had written and quoted in her gratitude journal. Quote, "One can't have any thoughts of condemnation, criticism, or judgments against any one of God's children in order to manifest what we want most in life." And then her paraphrased words, which are in our program today. May the blessings of love, humility, encouragement, forgiveness, non-judgment, generosity of spirit, innocence, kindness, compassion, flexibility, and the ability to see God in all people flow through all as the soul's true harvest. Karen was of the Christian faith and professed and lived life as a strong woman of God. I wanted you to know that all of the scripture that was chosen for today has been carefully chosen to bring to mind the qualities that all of us will recognize that Karen possessed and exemplified throughout her entire life. It was her character, personality, and integrity, her authentic self, that made her an outstanding teacher, that made her an outstanding mother, that made her an outstanding wife, daughter, sister-in-law, grandma, classmate, and caused so many of us to consider her our best friend. Fortified with these qualities, she confronted the problems, cares, and joys of this life that added up to a life well lived. I want to tell you some things you may not know about Karen, and a lot of things that you do know about Karen. But I wanted you to see how she applied all of these wonderful qualities to her life and to handling things as they came to her in her life. Most of us here today do know that she was born in Brainerd, Minnesota, and lived and grew up there with two loving parents, Carrie and Arthur, and a truly big brother, 6 feet, 5 inches tall, 12 years older than she, a big brother who doted on her, while at the same time often being a big nuisance to her, as of course she was to him. He, her brother Donald, who was become my wonderful husband, was a natural built-in babysitter. And Donald was fond of saying, almost like a mantra, "I don't know how such a miserable kid could turn out so well." This avowed statement was always said with a smile on his lips and a twinkle in his eye. It was he who saved money to buy her a much-desired doll carriage, and he who continued to buy for her special trinkets and tokens of love throughout his life. While he babysat Karen, both to her delight and chagrin, he often played pranks on her. Karen told me of a particularly memorable one when he said, "Oh, let me draw a picture of you." So Karen primped and she posed and she sat patiently while Donald seemingly took great pains to draw her picture perfectly. He would put out his thumb time and again to check angles of the face and to sharpen his artistic skill, all the while saying, "Oh, this is just going to be a wonderful picture, a great picture." And of course, Karen was very enthusiastic about seeing the results. But when he turned it over, it was a picture of his very big thumb. I just loved and absorbed these stories of childhood incidents that Karen related to me when Donald died of ALS almost 20 years ago now. Theirs was a mutual love and appreciation of each other that only grew stronger as the years passed. When I asked Karen to tell me a special highlight memory of her childhood, she didn't hesitate. She told me of a Sunday school teacher she admired so much when she was in third grade, and primarily because she could play the piano. And Karen was equally impressed. She demonstrated it to me. How her teacher would sit down at on the piano bench and then go through the important motions of swooshing her skirts down and patting them down before playing. So 9 years old, smitten with his teacher, she emulated her at home by setting up 2 chairs, one to sit in and swoosh down her skirts, and the other chair to serve as the piano she played. Her parents couldn't help but notice and wondered if they should give her piano lessons. But alas, there was no real piano in the home. But they looked in the newspaper, and would you believe it, there it was, an upright piano for sale at $100, and the rest is history. Karen became very proficient in piano, taking to it like a duck to water. She was so talented and so confident when she played that she became a kind of phenomenon in the church. She played both the piano and later the organ for everything that went on at the church. Weddings, funerals, the choir, church services, and so on. She practically lived at the church. But at this early age, she had developed quite a reputation as an outstanding pianist. When Karen was almost 12 years old, now keep in mind this was only about 3 years after she started taking piano, she entered a contest to play in a 10-piano event in the Twin Cities. She and others in the contest were evaluated and chosen to be one of the 10 best who would perform, get this, in unison, one of Bach's inventions. And Karen was one of the 10 winners. The winners were taken by bus on the appointed day with mothers and relatives in tow to Northrop Auditorium in Minneapolis on the University of Minnesota campus for what was equal to or beyond any NBA or NFL championship or winter or summer Olympic game. This achievement remained an unparalleled highlight of her young life. But alas, experiencing what we today would call burnout, she became a bit disenchanted with piano and stopped taking lessons in junior high, even though Donald would pay her 25 cents an hour to practice. But hey, let's face it, how do you get motivated to practice when you've already conquered the Olympics of piano? After graduating from high school, Karen attended St. Cloud State in her quest to become an elementary school teacher. While doing her student teaching, she lived with Donald at his home in Robbinsdale, near Minneapolis, where he was employed as a counseling psychologist in the high school. After teaching a year in St. Louis Park, Karen and Robert Ferguson were engaged to be married in the summer of 1965. Bob was a principal in Rosemont, so Karen moved to teach second grade in South St. Paul, where she met Mr. Perkins, her principal, who quickly became an admired mentor and lifelong friend. And it was there that she forged a lifetime friendship with another outstanding teacher, Mae Matthews, with whom she team taught for a rewarding and memorable time over several years. Right after Karen and Bob's wedding in 1965, Donald left Minnesota, moved to Columbia, South Carolina, to enroll in a doctoral counseling program at the University of South Carolina. And we can't ever say that without saying, "Go Gamecocks." I, too, was a graduate student there, and we met, married, and although not planned, received our terminal degrees at the very same time. We shared over 30 years of a wonderful marriage before his early death from Lou Gehrig's disease. But our marriage started a long procession of visits to and from South Carolina and Minnesota. The visits, the travels, the experiences, the shared confidences, and every other thing we did together created family bonds that would never be broken. As Donald began his new life in the South, newlyweds Bob and Karen were beginning their new life together. Those of us who knew Bob will remember his dominant and vibrant personality with the seize the day, seize the moment, seize the nanosecond of every minute of every day. He was so confident and sure of himself. He was very active in politics at every level. During the eras of Hubert Humphrey and afterwards, Karen constantly supported him in all of his endeavors, including political fundraisers galore, as well as his steady climb in the Masons to becoming potentate of the Osmond Shrine, with Karen as his first lady, fulfilling all of her duties as such and giving loyal support to his numerous, never-ending old activities as well as new activities which were constantly added to an already stuffed to the brim life, a life that was demanding, constant, time-consuming, and exhausting. Bob had a huge responsibility in planning the Shrine Circus for years on end, as well as serving as a clown at various functions as a Shriner. He would proudly wear and show off his beautifully made clown outfit and clearly loved to say proudly that his wife Karen had made it for him. A beautifully designed costume, fitted, tailored, and made to last with perfectly performed stitches. Karen learned how to cook various kinds of wild game that Bob, as an avid hunter, supplied during the various hunting seasons. They often hosted dinners with invitations titled "A Taste of the Wild." Bob had so many friends, and this is one of our favorite family stories that I'm about to tell you. But he had so many friends that at a planned political fundraising drop-in to be held at their home, he was working on his list of friends to invite. Donald and I were visiting at the time. When Bob finished his list, he reported he had 328 friends to invite. And with a twinkle in his eye and a smile on his lips, said, "Oh, wait, let's see. Karen, when we add your friend, that will make 329 invitations to send." Pretty humorous, under the circumstances, yes, but in reality, not true. While Bob thrived on the fast pace and excitement in his life, this was a new and different kind of life for Karen, but her brilliance in a supportive role was exemplary. Those of us in the know realized and knew that she, Karen herself, played a dominant role in Bob's success. So everyone touted and promoted Karen's contributions. An example, another family favorite story. Donald and I brought little gifts to Minnesota on our visits, and one time when visiting, we gave each of them a beautiful ceramic mug. Bob, of course, opened his first and smiled broadly, and holding it aloft proclaimed, "Look, it says, 'Damn, I'm good,' and walked around to show it off to everyone. When Karen opened hers, she said, 'Oh, look at mine. It says, hell, I'm better.'" And all of us clapped and carried on, enjoying Bob's dismay, which probably lasted a nanosecond before he was on top of the world again. And all of us could see that he was happy over Karen's pleasure and ours. So our visits to and fro from South Carolina to Minnesota and back again were delightful and fun-filled. Tubing down the Apple River, eating seafood at Myrtle Beach, seeing the tall ships in Duluth, going to Disney World, oh my goodness, with Carrie Jo, then a toddler, reciting nursery rhymes ad infinitum to and from Florida, with Bob trying in between to teach her what a pachyderm is and how to say pachyderm. Visiting the Minnesota State Fair and meeting and talking with Hubert Humphrey, that was a big thrill for me. And visiting the state capitol, enjoying corn roast in Karen and Bob's backyard, attending the Nutcracker together at the Nordray Theater at Christmas, with Bob being very proud that he had gotten first row seats. Such memorable visits here and in South Carolina, having fun, just being together. All of us were heartbroken at Bob's early death from cancer. For a while, it seemed as if the very sun had dimmed at his passing. And we wondered and worried about Karen adjusting to a life without Bob after 34 years of marriage. But not to worry. Karen literally metamorphed from her quiet, subdued life into a vibrant, self-assured young woman and a patient and wise mother to Carrie Jo. She traveled worldwide, her friends multiplied by the dozens, and she revealed how self-reliant she had become, with an eye on shopping and more shopping, traveling, having fun, developing interest and talent she didn't even know she had. She had quickly evolved into a woman of purpose and intent. I remember especially one Saturday morning we had a call from Karen, and she was so excited. And we said, "Well, what are you doing today for fun?" And she said, "Oh, I'm going to the market to buy lots of plants and flowers." Donald, who was a lover of plants and flowers and trees, said, "What are you planning to buy?" And she said, "Oh, lots of everything." Perhaps we were so thrilled because she was excited about life again, and she was really having a good time with the simple, everyday things that we think of as simple but aren't. So I think maybe she was thinking then about how beautiful her deck would look when Carrie Jo celebrated her upcoming marriage to Douglas Matuska, which was an event orchestrated perfectly by Karen herself. Both the wedding and reception will long be lovingly remembered by friends and family. Karen's joy knew no bounds when the joyful and hoped-for news was revealed that Carrie Jo and Doug were expecting a child. That August, just before the birth, Karen and I flew into Vermont and joined up in the airport to drive to Stowe, Vermont for a, get this, Gone to the Dogs retreat at the Two Dogs Lodge, a camp for dogs and their owners. She with Spencer, her beloved Karen Terrier, and I with my new gorgeous white toy poodle puppy, Rue. That was a week we enjoyed every second of being together and being in a festive July 4th parade with our dogs and other camp members and exploring the beautiful Vermont country, going for bike and horseback rides, and living life to its fullest. These kinds of adventures bonded us for life. But our day there always began with a check-in call to Carrie Jo and Doug, who were uppermost in our thoughts, for the baby boy was due any time. So when Alex was born soon after, we knew that the whole world, plus angelic realms, no doubt, must be in ecstasy with us over this joyful news. At this point, Karen's whole world shifted into grandma mode, enjoying every second of every time she was with Alex. His world and hers meshed into a synchronized love fest of doing things together, planning fun excursions, seeing an ocean and seashore for the first time in South Carolina, celebrating every birthday, making cookies together. I'll never forget how I almost ate Pluto, who was cooling on the kitchen counter when they were making a cookie solar system. We went through karate, I think taekwondo, piano, numerous birthdays, fencing, and 10 years of going trick-or-treating with Alex, who always wore very creative costumes that his mom, Carrie Jo, made for him. And in recent years, Grandma Karen and Alex shared Viking football games on Sundays at the stadium, always being transported by Doug and Carrie Jo right to the entrance and always picked up right afterwards to come home again, to cut down on the walking that was involved. I didn't even know that Carrie knew the difference between a home run and a touchdown, but for Alex, she learned. And then there was baseball. I'll always remember a couple summers ago trudging into the ballpark on a hot day with our oxygen tank and other equipment, our sunglasses, our water bottles, our sun hats, our coolest clothes, to watch our Alex play third base. And after the game, even in front of his friends, he, now a teenager, would you believe, he talked to us and recognized us and hugged us all in front of his friends. Imagine that, especially when he must have been embarrassed by his aunt from South Carolina who had that very big Southern accent. But who wouldn't love this obviously perfect kid? this perfect grandson. No bias, of course. But through the years, Karen and I often shared our belief that Doug and Carrie Jo were the best parenting team we had ever seen. I still believe that. Being a devoted grandma didn't slow down Karen's wonderful lifestyle as she continued to travel and, of course, to shop and shop some more. This was before those of us who knew her best heard her saying, "Less is more." Less is more. Yeah, sure. Okay, Karen showed how very astute she was with real estate, buying almost on a whim a wonderful house in Arizona, which family and friends enjoyed for 10 years, leaving her taconite trail house to buy the beautiful townhouse in White Bear Lake. Her decisions were made with an air of certainty and confidence, which was admirable. And did you know that in her 60s, she decided she would like to become a massage therapist, and she left her home in Surprise, Arizona, to live and study for about a year and a half in Sedona to accomplish this goal. Did any of you here today ever think, is this the Karen we thought we knew? We here today know many things about Karen. But did you know that her favorite color was green, her favorite food, sushi, and that tennis was her favorite sport, and that she herself was a better than pretty good tennis player? And did you know she did postgraduate work to earn administrative certification and credentials, that she worked for a short time in Dr. Dave Metzon's newly established South St. Paul Education Foundation, and after that served as principal of Composure Education Center for several years until she retired early due to Bob's illness. And did you know that Karen was outstanding in telling jokes of the Ole and Lena variety? Just outstanding. And that she was in Kansas City, Missouri, for the annual Swedish festival, and spontaneously she entered an Ole and Lena joke contest and won, and was a celebrity for a day with a picture in the paper, an interview on the radio and television, and just treated like a queen for a day because she told the best joke and she told it the best. So anyway, if you never heard her tell one of these jokes, you've missed a lot. And did you know that Johnny Mathis and his song Misty were longtime favorites of hers since high school? And did you know that the two things she loved the most in life was being a mother and being a grandma? And that her favorite sister-in-law was, I tried to trick her, but it didn't work. And did you know she felt very proud she passed the certification exam for massage therapy on the first try? And did you know that her words of wisdom to the younger generation is, be kind? That her best friend was her mother, Carrie. And the thing she is most proud of, her daughter, Carrie Jo, and her grandson, Alex. Did you know her pet peeves were people who talk too much and people who ask too many questions? Both of those, I believe, would be me. And that she frequently said, in addition to less is more, that when you point your finger at someone, there are three fingers that are pointing right back at you. And did you know that her favorite composer of musicals is Andrew Lloyd Webber? And that we are about to hear her favorite Andrew Lloyd Webber composition, which is from the musical Cats, and it's entitled Memories. After this beautiful rendition of Memories, we would like to hear from anyone here who might have a favorite memory they would like to relate concerning Karen. We have a traveling mic so that everybody can be heard. So is there anyone who would like to share a memory? I see a hand. Is that Karen? Karen Griffin? Okay. You can come up here if you want to, and we've got...
Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay? If I throw hands.
But people online can hear you.
Oh, sorry. Okay. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Karen Griffin, and depending on where Karen and I were, one of us was Karen, one of us was the other Karen. I've known her a long time. She was one of my daughter's third grade teachers, so she was lucky to have her for a teacher. And Karen and I worked together at school. We went so many places together, did so many fun things. And as I've talked to some of you before the service began here, there's definitely a theme that Karen was a joyful person to know. She just brought joy no matter what you did with her. A concert, a lunch, a trip, a cup of tea on the patio, whatever it was joyful. It was an adventure to go with Karen. Doug and I were talking earlier, and I said, you know, she was not afraid to take the road less traveled, ever. One time in Arizona, she found out that somebody had lariats for sale, and she wanted a lariat to put on her cactus in Arizona. And so we took this back road, bumpy, dirty, dusty, and we found a real cowboy who had lariats. But it wasn't enough to just have any kind of a lariat. She wanted something that somebody had used that had significance. I don't know how she did it, but she talked him out of his own personal lariat that had been hanging on the wall in his house. I kid you not. I don't know how she did that. She could really talk her way into or out of almost anything. One time we went to a concert in downtown Minneapolis, and as we were leaving in her big blue truck, I heard sirens behind us, and I said, Karen, I think those are for us. And she went, really? And I said, yeah, you better pull over. So she did, and she rolled down her window, and a state trooper came up to the truck and said, Karen looked at him and she goes, oh, did I do something wrong? And he said, well, you made a right-hand turn out of the left-hand lane without signaling. She said, well, you know, I just always have trouble getting out of downtown Minneapolis. And then she looked at him and she said, you know, we have little turtlenecks like that at my school, except they have kaposia on them. I couldn't believe it. I was laughing so hard. He just looked at us and he said, follow me and I'll get you to the ramp out of downtown. Seriously, she could do anything. She really did live a joy-filled life. And how many times did you hear her say, I am so blessed? Even at these last few years, which were not easy for her, she would say, oh, I'm just so blessed. I can just sit in my beautiful room here. I can look out the windows. I can see the trees and the scenery and the snow. She found the good in everything and in everybody. I recently heard someone say, let's live the joy of Christmas, even if we're fearful, even if we're hurting, even if things aren't going that well. Well, Karen lived the joy of Christmas every season. I don't know if I can do this. She was my friend, and I loved her for many reasons, most of all because she shared her joy with me. And I know she did the same for all of you.
Thank you. Karen, thank you so much. Is there anyone else? Oh, Dave? Or should I say Dr. Dave?
No. Let me just. Karen just stole all my lines. I said, we talked earlier, I said, who's going first? She said, I'm going first. It kind of reminds me when talking with Karen and Karen Ferguson, we got the Karens now, all right. I'm going to switch to all Fergusons here. Well, first off, my condolences to the family that your mother absolutely loved being a mother, being a grandmother. Doug, she loves you so much. I have to thank my friend Karen back here. I didn't know that Karen had been sick. So about 6 weeks ago, we went over and visited. I can tell you, I came away from there saying, Okay. Nobody's ever said that to me. They can't hear me. Most times they say, I hope I can hear you. I'd like to say that I was Karen's boss. She didn't need a boss. In fact, I've never seen anyone so effective at being a principal and having absolutely no ego. And I remember distinctly doing a review with her. And she got just A pluses. Oh, she says, I'm not that good. Yes, you are. One of her real gifts, besides, like we heard earlier, her joy for life, her positive outlook. And you need that in the school business. Some kids just need a hug, and some kids and teachers and staff members have to know that people care about them. And when you're an administrator, I think one of the greatest gifts you can have is being positive, upbeat, and absolutely caring from your heart. And that was Karen Ferguson. She was a joy to be around, a joy to work with. Sometimes they talk about a glass being half full or half empty. Her glass just flowed. And it was just such a privilege to be around her. And again, I'll go back to when talking with her. Probably the hardest job I had was convincing her how damn good she was. She just had a hard time accepting that, which is, again, a gift that she gave everyone. I think in the final analysis for all of us, and we're all going to be there someday, did you make a difference? Karen Ferguson, you made a difference in hundreds and hundreds of lives. May God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Anyone else? Sure. Thank you, Becky.
Just speak right into it.
Okay. Karen and I met years ago at Curves, and we had a really close friendship ever since. I used to paint watercolors, large paintings, but recently for quite a while now, I haven't done watercolors. I thought it was kind of fun. She gave me her rocks that she used when she was a massage therapist. And I started painting on the rocks. And on Facebook, I saw her with her dog. That's one thing she really loved, her dogs. And so I thought, well, I'm going to paint her dog on a rock. And so I took it to her, and she said, oh, she said, that's Spencer. I have to have one with Jack. So then I had to go and paint another of Jack. And I was her sushi partner. I would bring sushi to her at her home recently, and we both really enjoyed. There's a sushi restaurant by Lexington, and they have a master sushi chef, and they make the best sushi, so we really enjoyed that. Another thing we did is one time, quite a few years ago, we went to a movie that was really uplifting, and there was a young couple that was talking to us there and told us about a cinema circle where they send you positive movies, and she and I thought about it. We thought, well, what can we do with this? Well, we had a friend, Mickey, or I did, and Mickey said, oh, she says, I would love to show those. So we got together with a group every week and watched these movies, and we all brought little treats And that turned out to be more fun than the movies sometimes. So I loved her dearly. Thank you. Thank you so much. Anybody else?
I'm
Oh.
not going to come up. I just want to say how much I remember about Karen and her laugh. She just loved to laugh, and she could guffaw with the best of them. And I'm going to miss that.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you. I want to close our program by telling you of something that I believe Karen alluded to, and that was Karen's total feeling of gratefulness, especially during the year she combated this illness. Numerous times she brought this up in conversation, and she would say, I just feel so grateful. I feel so blessed to have this illness rather than another illness. She said, I can live in my home and enjoy it. I don't have to be in the hospital. I don't have to go for chemotherapy. I'm not in great pain. I have music and books and magazines and podcasts and politics and sports and movies any time of the day or night I want them. And she continued to feel this way even as her illness progressed and her condition became greatly compromised. She would say, I feel like a queen with Brenda, Sandy, Jill, and Brittany taking care of me, anticipating every need, shopping, picking up things, making calls, doing errands, such quality care. I feel and am so blessed. But it is we, all of us here today, who loved her so much, that feel grateful and blessed to have had Karen in our lives and to learn so much from her that helped us grow in every way. We know that the bonds that held us together in this life will also hold us together for all eternity. We are thankful that our Karen now is breathing celestial air and that she is truly home. Imagine stepping onto a shore and finding it heaven. Imagine taking hold of a hand and finding it's God's hand. Imagine breathing new air and finding it celestial air. Imagine feeling invigorated and finding it immortality. Imagine passing from storm and tempest to an unknown calm. Imagine waking and finding it home. Gracious and loving God, may kindness, goodness, and mercy be with Karen and us always. And may Karen live in the house of her Lord forever. Amen.